So I made this bat bike, then I turned it into a trike, which has major stability issues. I had a lot of good comments last video about how to fix this to do with the caster angle. Turns out I welded the ATV front on leaning forward too much. So I cut the frame, bend it back to the correct angle.
That's better.
Trim the box section, then weld it back together.
Well, that was easy.
I removed the gyro from the rear wheel.
Alright, I've taken the gyro out of there. Here's all the parts for it. Now I can put it back in there.
This also happened last time, so I need a chain tensioner.
Okay, I've got a chain tensioner sorted out in my sophisticated storage system. Pretty sure it's in here somewhere. Aha! And there's even two. Another major problem is the air filter hole is directly in line with the tyre. I don't know if you can see in there, but there is dirt stuck directly to the air filter and bits of the grass.
I used some 2mm aluminium plate and fold it in my dodgy homemade folder.
There we go, I folded up another piece for the back, and it's got a scoop here, direct a bit more air into the airbox and the engine. I've taken off the little trainer wheel skid thing and its homemade actuator. Yay, and I can cut this off now. My shins will love that, I've smashed it so many times.
Then I figured I'd just carry on and make some more panels. Time for the roof hatch, so I weld a hinge on top here. Next is to lengthen the A-arms. But at this point I wasn't really enjoying working on this trike anymore.
Well, I've been working away on this thing and I've been thinking, why am I doing this? I'm honestly not even really enjoying making the A-arms and doing stuff like that. I mean, I've done it before. The whole purpose of this thing was to build something different, and I'm going down the same route that I've done before. Shall I make it a two-wheeler again?
The front comes back off. Going back to a two-wheeler now, but I want to do the steering differently. So this is a bad drawing of a single-sided swing arm, like what Grind Hard Plumbing has on their bike, which is reasonably easy to make, but it's asymmetrical and there's a lot of twisting force on the swing arm, so it has to be pretty beefy to hold up to the strain. This is what I want to make, a center hub steering system. A few bikes have this, but it's pretty rare because it's pretty complicated to build, but I'll have a go at it. This was my first mistake, and it won't work as you see later in the video.
I've built these up so I've got somewhere to screw a bolt into later.
I machined the OD down to fit the bearing and face it off, then mark it where the pivot will be. Back into the lathe to chamfer the end. Then I cut the axle out of 20mm rod and the pivot out of 12mm rod. I center drill it, then use a 10.2mm drill and tap it out to M12. Then I move over to the mill as I want to accurately drill a 12mm hole in the center. I use the center finder on the edge, which is 10mm diameter. When it moves off the center, I zero the digital readout, then subtract half the diameter, which is 5mm, and wind it to the center. I start with a point drill, then a pilot drill, then finish with the 12mm. I put it into the drill press to countersink for the weld, but this is a mistake too. I take off the 3-jaw chuck and put on the 4-jaw chuck to bore the hole for the steering bearings. I could have done this in the mill, but you can put a big drill in the lathe to take out more material faster. I need to bore it out to a 37mm hole, so I use a 35mm drill. Then I use the boring bar to do the rest. and I make it 0.02 millimeter interference fit, so it'll be a press fit.
So I've realized if I put that in there and weld it, I'm never going to be able to get it inside here. I can bang this pin afterwards, and then I'm never going to get it back out if I weld it. So it's not going to be strong enough just like that without being welded, because it'll just snap through there. So what I want to do is cut this down and weld a piece each side like that. That way it can still pivot inside here.
I use some 50mm bright bar and take it down to 45mm, which I can do in two 2.5mm cuts. It's a rigid setup. Then I cut the sides off the wheel hub to make room for the axle. The bolt you see here gets replaced with a 12mm pin, which I grind to length to be a tight fit in the wheel bearings. This first attempt I had too tight, so I ground a bit more off.
Ooh. Ah, it's going. It's working. Okay, since these are two taper bearings in here, I have to press them together somehow to adjust the tension on them. It's an old Hilux wheel bearing I got out of the rubbish bin. Maybe next time I put it together I'll put some grease in it. That's what those blobs were going to be, but they ended up being here instead of over here. So I cut them out. What I'm going to do instead is weld these nuts in here.
The weld I put on at the start was in the wrong place, but this should work.
Alright, now I've got to take it all apart again because I need to get a weld on the back side of it really. Back home now. Next thing I want to sort out is I want to make a plate that pushes on here, but it's got to have a slot in it, so then it'll have to have some sort of bridge out the sides so this can still move back and forth. Let's make that. I'll hole saw something out of this bit of 2mm steel plate. Okay, tech tip, if you want to accurately find your centers easily with a vernier, measure your bolt, hit your 0, put your bolt back in, and then measure across the outside. And we got pretty much bang on 34mm. Nice. These are digital calipers, sorry, not verniers.
I clear the mill scale off so I can TIG weld it. Then I drill out to 8.5mm clearance holes. Then just fuse weld the parts together at about 90 amps, then cut the rest of the slot through the washer part.
That works pretty good.
I need to make a spacer for the wheel offset. I build up the inside of this pipe with weld, then machine it, and it will centralize the hub and the wheel. The last part of lathe work I need to do for a while is the bosses to hold the aluminium swing arm bearings.
So I've got those pieces made. There's a bearing sitting in that one. I actually might make 2 more of these for the swing arm pivot, which will be down here. But right now I've got some pieces of cardboard and I'm going to start cutting them out of that piece of aluminium. Those 2 pieces are cut out. Now I've just got it clamped together, ready to do a corner to corner to weld. Hopefully this works. So I've been tacking this together slowly. Bit of guesswork going on here. But there's my rear pivot, my front pivot. That kind of turns like that. So what I need to do now is start making the other side. I'll just copy this one. there's the swing arm. Almost ready to start welding on it. But there will be a shock mount that I need to put on still. So I've got a few plans on how to make this thing balance. You'll have to see this in the next video. Thanks for watching. See you later.